if Van Dijk is in form, Liverpool's back four performs well. If Van
Yeah,
Dijk
that's
is
true.
not performing well, Liverpool's back four seems shaky, So now being the captain of the club, I think that's an added responsibility, which again I think will make him better. And also the fact I think the break would have helped a lot of these guys, with their form. So I genuinely think that Liverpool will, be very competitive. The place 2 or 3 is a question mark, but I definitely think they will be way more competitive than they were last year.
I
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Football Unplugged with me, Satvik. And finally, the 2 most difficult months for us as football fans is finally over. The post-season break is done, and now the footballing action will finally be back. And our most beloved Premier League would be the first league to start. And I'm extremely excited for what the next season has to hold for us. And we have our Premier League expert in Mayank with us, who apparently just injured himself very badly playing football. So, Mayank, hope you're doing well and welcome to the show once again.
Hi, thank you for calling me again. Yeah, I'm doing well. It's a bit frustrating with this injury because now I can't play. But luckily for me, football is back, so I at least have something to watch.
Correct. I've been so excited for the Premier League season in this season particular because so many good teams, I can't really have a, top six, top seven, who will finish where, so many good teams. So yes, in today's episode, what we are going to do is give our Premier League predictions, and what we're going to do is give our top seven, our European places predictions, and along with that, we'll also be doing the teams that will be relegated. Not just this, we will also be, giving our guesses, for the Premier League player of the season, signing of the season, who would be the best manager, who would be one of the first managers who get sacked. So, a lot of interesting stuff coming up, and I'm sure all of you would love this. A bunch of really interesting conversations coming up. And again, if you've seen Mayank's episode with me on the last Premier League season, we're going to have a lot of different opinions. So, yes, not taking much time, Mayank, are we good to go?
Yes, just another caveat that I like to add. The just like last time, this time also we don't know each other's predictions as of now.
So, Mayank has just been here for like 20 odd minutes, and
Yeah.
we don't know what's in hold for all of us, right? So we will be starting with our predictions for the Premier League table first of all, and then we'd be moving towards the individual awards or individual predictions per se. Mike, would you want to start from bottom seven going upwards? We can go one by one.
We can start with relegation, I feel.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's start with relegation. So, Mank, your 3 picks for relegation.
I think this has been fairly easy for me. This is one of the easier predictions to make. So my predictions is Wolves, Sheffield United, and Luton Town. I just don't think so. The like you just said, the Premier League in terms of level has just exceeded everyone's expectations. The level is so high right now, and everyone has so many resources. And these three teams, I feel like, are lacking in resources a lot. Julian Lopetegui has just been sacked, and while he has been replaced by an able manager in Gary O'Neill, I don't think he has enough of a squad there. I think losing Joao Moutinho and Ruben Neves in one single season is going to be a huge loss to them. And I just don't see enough goals for them. The rest, Sheffield United and Luton Town, while they did get promoted, I think they got promoted a year earlier than they were expecting to, and they don't really have the resources.
Correct.
So Sander Berge, who was Sheffield United's one of the best seasons, he best player, one of the most important player for them last season, he has just been transferred to Burnley. And Luton Town, so I was just checking this out, and their record transfer fee is 5 million.
Correct.
Which is nothing in these days
Premier League's
in Premier League's comparison. So I just don't think they have the resources. I mean, it'll be a miracle if Luton Town keeps itself from relegation, but I just don't see it happening.
I think on the 2 teams, I think this might be on everyone's relegation predictions is Luton and Sheffield. Honestly, don't have the squad depth, and again, as Mayank has already mentioned, they've promoted a season earlier probably. So I think that those 2 teams, I'm pretty sure will get relegated. The third relegation team was slightly tricky for me. I had a couple of teams in mind. I think Bournemouth is one team that I still think can get relegated. I think they made a terrible call sacking Gary O'Neill. I think he did an absolutely beautiful job last season. Honestly, I don't see Wolves going down somehow. I think the individual players that they still have, I still think that they'd be able to make it. But I a surprising call, but I also see, I can also see a Crystal Palace going down,
Yeah,
right?
that won't be a surprise.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think they've got left. They've parted ways. If I say that, with Wilfred Zaha, their best player ever, if I can say that,
Yeah.
right? And I think they've not made a lot of signings, and it's very important. The Roy Hudson cannot come again and prevent them from getting relegated. So between Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, I see any one of them going down.
But I find it really hard that both of these teams are gonna relegate, and as you're gonna find out, I definitely don't think Bournemouth's gonna get relegated.
Again, let's see again, as both of us have very contrasting opinions. So these are the three teams each that we've picked. Now comes the more important part, जहाँ पे सबको बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेस्ट है इंडिया में स्पेशली, एंड लोग जहाँ पे ज़्यादा बातें करना चाहते हैं. And starting off with number 7 to then going up to the winner for the Premier League. For me, number 7 would be Aston Villa. Okay, because I think Unai Emery again has done a brilliant job. A lot of people might have expected a Spurs or a Brighton, but I honestly don't see them, being number 7. So, and again, I think the signings of Yuri Tielemans, Diaby, and Pau Torres, I think they've just gone under the radar. I think these are some brilliant signings. So the number 7 team for me would be Aston Villa, and I think they'll only get better, but just for the fact that it will be an increased competition from last year.
Yeah, Aston Villa is a great shout, and I am looking forward to these signings. Yeah, but I have, for my position in 7, I have gone for Spurs instead. And yeah, I think it's extremely likely as the days goes by that Kane's gonna stay for another year. Surprise, surprise.
Daniel Levy plays with magic again.
Yes. I mean, it doesn't make sense from a footballing sense,
Correct.
footballing overview, because they bid it odd 85 million. The
I
last
think
bid
the
was,
100 million was the last.
yeah, in euros. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for someone who has 1 year on his contract, but he just isn't going to sell him. And with Kane up top, I think they've made very good signings. I mean, Destiny Udogie is a really good left back. They've got finally a centre back. They've got a good keeper as well.
And they've signed Maddison as well.
Yeah, Maddison, of course. How could I forget that? I think that's going to be
I think
transformational for them.
Yeah, I think they definitely needed someone like him. I think
Yeah.
they lacked the creativity in the midfield. And I think even if Lo Celso decides to stay and he does not go out, I think he's another player who could add a lot of value in that midfield.
Yeah, he could definitely. Like he'd be an able replacement for Maddison.
Correct.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So yeah, and I also really like their manager. The aura that he brings, the energy that he brings, I just think they're gonna outscore a lot of things. They're gonna concede a lot of goals. I have no doubt in that. But yeah, they're just gonna outscore a lot of opponents.
I think, when it comes to the manager, I think it would be extremes. I think either he'd be too good, either he'd be really, really good, or he'd just, probably be one of the first managers to get sacked. So could be any, but I'm on the fence when it comes to their manager.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, Mayank, you'd want to go for your 6th position prediction first?
Yeah. I have gone for a surprise. For my 6th position, I've gone for Newcastle. I think they're going to drop out of the top 4, and they've been running hot for more than a year now, but I think they're going to regress a bit. I was expecting more from them in the transfer window, while they've done a lot of good business. I think Tino Livramento is a really good signing, and he's going to be a great replacement for
in the long run.
In the long run, but they haven't gotten a left back. a lot of the squad that was about to get relegated is still in the playing 11.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I just don't think with Champions League in place this time, they're gonna be playing Champions League as well. I just don't think them finishing in top four, but they're still gonna be solid and they're gonna finish sixth.
I think I 100% agree with you on this one. And I think Newcastle is my prediction for number 6 as well. And again, agree to everything you said. I think even at the end of this last season, they sort of dropped off a bit, right? They
Yeah.
dropped pace. I think teams slightly figured out how Newcastle were playing, and they also started conceding a lot more goals than they did,
Yes,
right?
they did.
And so, yeah, I think while they've made a lot of signings, I somehow still feel, they have a missing element in their team. And, until and unless they get, Wilson and Isaac to work together somehow, I still don't see them, finishing in the top 5 or top 4
Yeah,
like
I was
last.
surprised they didn't go for a left back. I mean, they're still
Hmm.
playing Dan Burn.
Dan, and who I think what they, and again, Dan Burn is awful going forward, right?
Yeah.
Then he doesn't provide. So what they might do is have a 3 in possession, and with Trippier, who is anyways a lot ahead. But again, not sure what Eddie Howe has planned for the coming season. But again, for number 6, I again agree with Mayank. I think Newcastle is a good shout. Moving on, and here is when the more popular choices and the more popular teams
Yes.
come in. The number 5 for me is gonna be Chelsea. Might be surprising for a lot of people that I've put Chelsea so high, and probably for some people it might be too low. But I think finally Chelsea have gotten the right manager. I have always been a huge fan of Pochettino, the way he played. I think the discipline that he brings into a team, and I think even with the signings that they've done, if they're able to sign Caicedo, I think it solves a lot of problems for them.
Mm.
And I think with the likes of Mudryk, Enzo Fernandez, I think having gotten over the first season, I think these guys will do much better this season. And apart from that, I think defensively, I think they are. If injuries don't come into the picture, I think with Colville there, I think they will have a more stable back four than they had last year. So number 5 for me would be Chelsea.
Yeah. Levi Colville, I think in a year's time is gonna be English's best centre back. So yeah, that's definitely gonna have a difference. But I just think they need more of a transition time, especially because of the injury to Nkunku.
And yeah.
I think that's gonna hurt them a lot.
So, Mank, it looks like Chelsea isn't in your top 7
Yes,
at
yes.
okay.
Yeah. So while Chelsea was definitely a hot take for 5th, I also have a hot take for 5th. I think it's gonna be Liverpool. They're gonna miss out on Champions League for the second time in a row. And yeah, I think I do admit that it's really surprising for a lot of people, but hear me out. So I don't think they've bought smartly enough. The main issues that they had was when Konate was injured, the backline didn't seem good enough. Matip, I think he has played as much football as he could in the Premier League. I think he's well past his years. Robertson for that left back role, that hybrid role, I don't think he's made for that. He keeps going forward and he keeps going out of position. They've not got a proper DM.
Correct.
They're playing Curtis Jones or McAllister there, and even if they get Lavia, he is still only 19 or 20 years old and he's still very young. So in order to compete at that level, I don't think they're gonna have that much consistency to end up in top 4 this season. I mean, they're gonna score a lot of goals. They're definitely gonna score a lot of goals, but with the level that the Premier League is at, the amount of vulnerability that this team has, they're gonna get caught out.
No, I have a very different opinion when it comes to Liverpool. मेरा बहुत ही अलग thought process है, बहुत अलग perspective है. So I think a good debate, a good discussion. So I'll put my point for Liverpool when I disclose the position that I'm going to choose Liverpool for.
I think they need another centre back.
I do feel they need another centre back, but I still think a lot of last year was down to form as well and not just personnel. So I think if they're able to solve that, which I think they might be able to, I think, again, I don't want to disclose it, but I think Liverpool will do well in the coming season. But okay, very honestly, I was very surprised to see Liverpool this low. I
Yeah.
expected a Brighton to be at number 5, having seen Mayank's picks. But let's see where this goes. So, Mayank, you want to go for your number 4, the last Champions League slot?
Yeah. So as you just mentioned, my number 4 pick is actually Brighton. And we all know about Brighton's recruitment. We all know that Roberto De Zerbi is a great manager. And the amount of depth that they've added this year is actually pretty amazing. I think Joao Pedro is going to be a great signing for them. They didn't get Colwell back, but I think Igor is a good alternative, and he's going to be there. There's going to be Gross. There's going to be Welt. I think Lamptey is going to have a better year. They've got a really good keeper in Verbogen. He's really young. He's good with his feet, and he's really good 1v1. So I have high hopes for them. And yeah, they've also got some more interesting players back from loan. One of them is Adingra.
Yeah.
He's gonna be substituting Mitomo, and he seems really quick and sharp as well. And yeah, then we all predicted that this is gonna be Evan Ferguson's year.
100%.
So there's just a lot of ticks here, and I just think that they have the depth this year. Also, if it goes through, I mean, it's not through yet by the time we're recording this, but if Mohamed Kudus comes to Brighton, that's going to be a really amazing signing for them. I mean, March was good, but Kudus can play as a right wing. He's going to be amazing. He can also substitute as a centre mid. He can also play as a striker. So I just have a lot of high hopes from Brighton this year, and I'm really looking forward to watching them play. Yeah.
Again, I think जो जितना मैं मयंक को सुन रहा हूँ उतना मुझे लग रहा है कि हमारा व्यूज बिल्कुल ऑपोजिट है. I think on the contrary, I feel Brighton isn't going to fight, not fight, but isn't going to qualify for the European positions. I think I'm expecting Caicedo to move, right?
Yeah, but I just think for the money he's gonna be going. If he's going for 100 million.
Yeah, correct.
Or hot 100 million, and he's gonna be replaced well. They've already said that they're gonna replace him, and they must have a good replacement. I think the only case is like if they're progressing well in Europa, and they start prioritizing that, then there might be a chance. But otherwise, yeah.
And again, I think that was again a perspective that I had, considering they'll be playing a lot more matches.
Yeah.
They'll probably lose 2 of their best players of last season, Caicedo and McAllister. So I think that was one reason. And again, with Colville going out, as much as they have some brilliant players, I still feel that, a lack of experience could be a factor here. And at the same time, and this is something I felt even last season, De Zerbi is one sacking away from a top 6 Premier League club, right?
Yeah.
One sacking for any of the top 6, and we might see De Zerbi, going to any of them. So, they managed to replace, Graham Potter extremely well last year. So that is again a thought that I had in mind. But honestly, somehow, and this is more of gut than, just clear numbers, that I don't see Brighton, let alone the Champions League position, but I don't see Brighton qualifying for, the European positions. But again, interesting thing, Mayank. Honestly, I was pretty surprised. I thought you will have Brighton in probably a 6 or a 7, but number 4 is shocking to me as well.
I was really confused about it, but I just didn't see Liverpool finishing top 4. And then if it's not Liverpool, it had to be one of Brighton or Newcastle for me. And then I think Brighton just edged it with the transfer business.
Makes sense. So the number 4 for me for the 23-24 season will be Manchester United. I think the table now seems more and more obvious, at least for me, and probably for Mayank even now. I think the changes, the chop and changes, the difference are probably more or less done for us, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, right? I have Liverpool still remaining, so that will definitely be different. So I have Manchester United at number 4. Again, I think centre forward will still be a problem for them. As much I think they've overpaid for Haaland. How do I even pronounce it?
Holland.
Holland, right? I always start calling him Haaland. So they've overpaid for him a bit, and I think he's injured. I just saw the
Yeah,
report
he's
today he's
injured.
injured, right? So the center forward position might be a problem for them, and I am still trying to figure out how would Mount fit into the picture in their midfield with Bruno, playing as a more attack-minded midfielder. But at the same time, I think they have some great players. They have a great manager, and they have a Marcus Rashford with them as well. And if on form, I think they'll do extremely well this season, but not well enough, according to me, to go above top four. I think a top four would be a great result for them, according to me, with the team that they have at least currently. So yes, that is my number 4. Moving ahead, now we have the top 3.
Yeah, the
All
number
of
3.
us, we're done with almost 4 teams each, and some interesting picks. But now we, head towards the most important, most interesting part of the table. So at number 3, I have Arsenal. Right. Sorry, Mayank. Sorry for breaking your heart. While Mayank expects or wants Arsenal to win, I think Arsenal will drop to the number 3 position. Even though they've made some great signings, honestly, all the 3 signings that they've made, I think they've been bang on.
Yeah.
And as much as a lot of players would, diss or make fun of Kai Havertz, I think, and this might come back to haunt me later, but I think he will be one of the signings of the season. And this is a
That's
big
fine.
call that I'm taking right now, but I definitely think Kai Havertz will play a very important role in Arsenal. Having said that, I still think that their replacements for their starting 11 isn't something that, is strong enough. I still think they are one Odegaard injury away from losing that position, because, I don't see Fabio Vieira replacing Odegaard as efficiently, and Emil Smith Rowe isn't really the number 10 that they hoping for. So
Yeah.
I think that way, I think again, squad depth in the midfield this time would be one reason that Arsenal drop off. So that is my prediction for number 3. Yes, Mayank.
My number 3 is gonna be Manchester United. I mean, it would be a really big surprise if they end up anywhere above 3rd position. And ironically, at the start of the season, I didn't think Manchester United is gonna finish in the top 4.
Last year you were saying, right?
No, this
Okay.
I was assuming that they won't finish, but they've done some excellent business. So I was under the assumption that since the sale that is supposed to go through from the past 1 year will still not go through, they won't be spending a lot, but they've spent quite a bit.
Quite a lot of money.
Quite a bit, yeah. And they bought really well, and they're still buying. And I think Holland, while they have actually overpaid for him, in the longer run, he's
Correct.
gonna come good. Right now, he might not come good, but they don't need to come good. They were playing Vegas last season, and they were still managing just fine. So I think the job that Vegas did, more or less, he can do that job. He's good in his pressing, and that's what Ten Hag needs from his striker.
Anyways, he's a much better upgrade to Weghorst.
Exactly. So yeah, they have an upgrade in the striker. They've added Mason Mount, who more or less is gonna be more of a dangerous weapon rather than as compared to Christian Eriksen. I mean, they're 2 very different players, but they're playing in the same position. And yes, Mount is also a really good signing, a really solid signing. It's not a great signing, but it's a really solid 8 signing. They're gonna get a lot of consistency from Mount. They've bought Onana, and that is gonna be transformational for them.
I agree.
A lot of the issues that you could go back to Manchester United last season were down to De Gea, because they couldn't play out from the back properly, and they conceded a lot of goals because of his errors. So that's gonna be ironed out, and they're still doing a lot of business still. They have finally sold Maguire.
And the talks of McTominay getting sold as well,
Yeah,
along with Fred.
that's still not sure, but
Yeah.
Maguire's
Definitely
definitely
going,
going.
yeah.
And they're replacing him from, I mean, they are gonna replace him well. From the names that I've seen, I'm really impressed. And then they're also going from Amrabat, and I
Yeah.
think that's a really good signing. That's a shrewd signing for 25 million odd pounds. That's gonna be a really good signing, because he can play alongside Casemiro,
Yeah.
and without Casemiro. And that was a big issue for them because when Casemiro wasn't
wasn't-
there,
It was a different team altogether.
it was a different team altogether. And now they will have an able replacement if they get Amrabat. So I'm hoping these two signings still go ahead. They still go ahead with these signings, and then they have a really solid team, and they're gonna be hard to beat. And from a match to match perspective, Ten Hag is a really good manager.
Correct.
So yeah, they're gonna finish third.
Number 2 going forward, man.
Number 2, and another hot take, but I'm an Arsenal fan, so this is going to be a biased opinion, and for me, this is gonna be a very close second to Manchester City. For me, they're not gonna win the league this year. I think they like losing Gundogan and Mahrez in one season is gonna be a big blow for them.
100%.
I think Haaland's not gonna do as well as he did last year. I mean, he might be well adjusted to the team overall, but he won't be scoring as many goals. Yeah, so I just don't think they would have enough motivation in them to win the title this year. And yes, I mean, they're still a pretty great team and they're still gonna be amazing, but Gundogan to Kovacic is a huge downgrade. Mahrez to Palmer or whoever else they get is a huge downgrade. I just don't see them winning the title this year.
No, I think I agree to a lot what Mayank has to say. I think again, if they are not going to play Foden in the Gundogan role, I don't see Foden growing as a footballer, right? I think that's the apt position for him. If he is bound to be David Silva's replacement, he has to play there, right? And again, I think Gundogan and Mahrez, I think Mahrez was extremely underrated under Guardiola, right? He did not get the due that he deserved, especially in Manchester City. And, with Bernardo Silva's situation, also, he's more likely to stay than to go. But I still think, agree to whatever you said. But again, I still have.
I think they really did really well. I mean, so one thing that was really surprising. So for the past 2-3 years, we've been hearing all about it. Manchester City, they don't stop any players from leaving. If you want to leave, you can leave. We don't mind. But this season,
especially with Kyle Walker
and Bernardo Silva, Pep is actually scared of losing them. He knows that he has already lost 2 of his most important players and he cannot lose 2 more.
Correct.
Which was actually really surprising. Especially for Bernardo Silva, they put out a public statement that they won't be negotiating with anyone.
Yeah. Which is unusual.
Which is very unusual for City.
Correct. And I think as much as that holds true, a lot of these things, I think Alvarez would be more involved. They might change the system altogether. And I think that is what we saw in the Community Shield final as well, right? But at the same time, I think they were absolutely ineffective in the midfield, right? They weren't the Man City that we know, right? So again, that is something to look forward for. But contrary to Mayank, I still, have Man City as my champion. So in number 2, then I have Liverpool, which obviously is a very hot take when it comes to Mayank's opinion. But honestly, I think a lot of last season had to do with forms of a lot of players. And I think Van Dijk was in poor form. Trent's position after he sort of comes into the midfield, that's been revolutionary. And, they do need a centre back. I think you're absolutely bang on when it comes to Matip. And I've always thought of Joe Gomez to be a long-term centre back for them. But I think last season he was absolutely terrible. Right? So that is one thing that they have to solve. But when it comes to the midfield, honestly, I think if they do sign Lavia, I think they have a very good midfield. With McAllister, being involved. And, when it comes to their attacking 4, with Gakpo, Jota, Diaz, Nunes, Salah, attacking 5 for that matter, right? I think it's probably one of the best. And again, a hot take, Darwin Nunes will be a great goal scorer for them. I think he'll prove everyone wrong this season. And I think Luis Diaz will completely change a lot of things for. I think he
was a huge miss.
He was a huge miss. And, I think they if there's an ideal replacement for a Sadio Mane was Luis Diaz or is Luis Diaz,
Yeah.
right? In terms of how he approaches play, how direct he is,
That
right?
South American.
That the South American player
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So I think I somehow see Klopp, getting his shit together, if I have to say that. And I genuinely have, again, this is more of a gut call rather than just based on stats or, signings. But I 100% think that Liverpool are going to be competitive, unlike last year. And I think, again, if Van Dijk is in form, Liverpool's back four performs well. If Van
Yeah,
Dijk
that's
is
true.
not performing well, Liverpool's back four seems shaky, So now being the captain of the club, I think that's an added responsibility, which again I think will make him better. And also the fact I think the break would have helped a lot of these guys, with their form. So I genuinely think that Liverpool will, be very competitive. The place 2 or 3 is a question mark, but I definitely think they will be way more competitive than they were last year.
I just think in the back line, their depth
Yeah.
is very
Okay.
questionable. Like, what happens if Van Dijk gets injured again?
Huh. Right.
Who are you playing then? What happens if Robertson gets injured? Because Simicas is not that defensively sound.
Mhm.
So he cannot play that left back, centre back hybrid role. What happens if Trent gets injured? What happens if Lavia gets injured? You literally they literally have sold every DM that they had. So
I think, as much as, when it comes to physicality as well, McAllister or Curtis Jones aren't the best, but they might then adapt to a two as a base of the midfield.
but they won't if one of the DMs get injured, they don't have any other two DMs.
Yeah, I expect then probably a McAllister or Curtis Jones to play deeper, right? And then them
Both
playing
of them.
two pivot and then playing a diamond probably up front. Not a
Then-
diamond, but a 3 and a 1 number 10
But
play.
then Trent doesn't fit in anywhere because he's
And I think,
inverting.
and then in those matches, one can expect probably, Liverpool going to their original system of the initial Klopp eras of Trent being used as a traditional right. But again, too many ifs and buts here.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's see what happens again. I think Liverpool will come back this season. So that is my prediction, which obviously, leaves the number 1 position to
The
absolute
champions.
clarity for both of us. I will again pick Manchester City to win the title. And as much as they've lost a lot of players, and the factor of motivation is something that I did not consider. But at the same time, I think it's Guardiola. I think that man's too obsessed with winning. And at the same time, I think a lot of that has to do with how Foden is used or how that Gundogan replacement position does. Because I think in the Mahrez position, Bernardo Silva is an upgrade or a better replacement, if replacement would even be the right word. But I think the way they fill the Gundogan role, I think that would be extremely important, because if they do it with Kovacic, they are doomed. Right? I don't think he's the right player for that position. So a lot of things to see there, but I still feel, with the attacking prowess that they have, and just the way I think teams are still terrorized by them. I think the mental factor is a lot to do in modern day football as well. So that, having said that, I think that, Manchester City are still going to be the champions of the Premier League. Mayank.
As you know, this is going to be a biased opinion. But my champions, it's very obvious for me, it's going to be, this is Arsenal's year. I'm very sure of it. The signing of the season for me is Declan Rice. And he's gonna be phenomenal for us. I mean, ideally, I would also like him. I would have liked him playing in the 6th role instead of Partey. But as we have seen in the Community Shield match, he was so competent in that drifting hybrid 8 role. He's just a really good player to have in such matches. I mean, we have in the past 2-3 years, the aura and the atmosphere that Arteta and Edu have created, it's really special. So some of the things that they did, we are not buying any players that don't want to come to us. They bought a lot of leaders also. Like if you just look at this team, this is full of leaders. And I think that when you're fighting for titles, when you're fighting for championships, that's really important. You have Ben White, who's a leader. You have Zinchenko, who's Ukraine's captain. You have Declan Rice, who's England's he's gonna be England's captain. He was West Ham's captain.
You have Odegaard, the club captain,
You
and
have
Norway.
Odegaard. the club captain. We have just the team is just full of leaders. So I'm just really excited for this. Yeah, even Havertz, he was also captain at Bayer Leverkusen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just really excited for this season, and they've added enough of a depth. Even Timber is a captain, was a captain at Ajax. So they just added this team full of captains that are very able at their profiles, at they're technically really sound, and we've added enough of depth. Like now we have a replacement of each and every player, and like I do agree with you, Havertz is gonna play a big role for us because in that lackluster Chelsea team, play, I think playing as a nine, he was a bit isolated. I think he's gonna be very versatile for us. He can play in as that hybrid eight role in matches that we don't need to do a lot of defending. He can also, as we've seen from that Manchester City match, he can be a really good number nine.
I think he held the ball. I don't know why he was being so trolled after the community shield. I think he put in a decent performance. I think he was good
his
at
performance was amazing, especially his pressing.
Yeah, and I think even his hold up play was very nice. There were a bunch of long balls being shot at him, and he, held it well. Passed it in a good position. So I did not really understand the trolls at him. I really think it's going to be a great asset for us.
No, absolutely. And even the two chances that he missed. First of all, the first chance he
Very
created
difficult. Yeah.
out himself.
Correct.
And the second chance was on his weak foot. Now, if he would get the same shot on his left foot and he would miss, we wouldn't be slandering him for that miss. So, yeah, those were two half chances. They were half chances.
And
they
if
were
one
not
has to
clear cut
go
chances.
by chances, Haaland would have probably missed the most chances last year, right? Because he got created
Yeah.
so many, right? So again, I think just a good player. I think just a great addition to Arsenal's team. So
And we've added another keeper as well.
yeah, I think David Raya's would be a great addition. And in case I think Ramsdale is probably one of the best keepers in the country at the moment. And I think in the case he gets injured, I think they have a very able replacement in David Raya.
Yeah, like so Raya on statistically was a bit better than Ramsdale last year. So I think it's a win-win situation for us buying Raya for so cheap. And that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like we have players that want to come to us. Spurs bid around the 35 million
and I
for
thought
him.
there was a buy-in bid of around 40 million as well, if I'm not wrong.
I am not sure, but yeah, 35 to 40 million bid had been made by Spurs, but it was rejected. But we got him for odd 28 million. Yeah, so that's a really good business. And even if Raya doesn't start as much and Ramsdale continues to be the playing because the starting goalkeeper, he's gonna improve Ramsdale performances.
Correct.
Like Ramsdale's gonna be on his toes all the time. He'd know that a world-class keeper is behind me.
And Ramsey just gave a very recent interview that
Yeah,
I have
bring
done I've done the same thing to keepers at other clubs where I've gone and replaced them, right? So it's just a good motivation. I think that is the sort of attitude I think that Arteta has brought into the club as well, right? So again, I think a very exciting Premier League coming up. I'm so excited. I just can't wait for Friday night, Friday night in Indian Standard Time. Where a lot of people, where Man City hosts Burnley as well. I think would be a great match. So yes, that is it for the predictions of the table in terms of the European positions and the relegation.